Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Monday. It is December. It is December 1st, and it's 2025. But that you knew already, and pretty soon it won't be, and pretty soon we'll be saying, oh my goodness, it's 2026, and pretending we still write checks. That's what you do these days. Hey, you know, this is something that I saw yesterday. I'm going to change tracks immediately here. It's December 2nd. How do you like that? No, the track I'm going to change here is Justice is just letting me know that everything is A-okay, and mentioning the various stories that have caught his attention this morning. And we do this each morning, and usually we're on the same page. And this time, well, it's not that we're not on the same page. It's that I didn't see this story reported, though I did see somebody say that this had happened, and I couldn't find a link. And at Justice, have you got a link for this one? He's saying that, and it's very difficult not to believe that this is true. Though again, I don't have the link at hand. That Trump sucks, and he's old and terrible. So I don't really have a link for that necessarily. But okay, new story out yesterday. The story I did see, and I do have a link to, is Trump is in a fight, sort of, with his architect for the crazy ass ballroom that he says he's building, where he knocked down the East Wing. And I'm still not entirely convinced he's actually building this thing. He's entirely convinced. I'm not. I don't think anybody's going to stop him necessarily. I just think something's going to fall. I mean, they may build a thing and it caves in on itself. I don't know. Because he's designing it. Anyway, he's in a fight with his architect. The architect is like, this ballroom is too big. You can't do this. No, I want to make it bigger. So I guess he got a plan out of the architect, which must have still have been for a huge ballroom. But he keeps increasing the size, and the architect, I guess, isn't or hadn't been redesigning the thing to keep up with his demands. Anyway, so now he's mad, and I don't know whether he fired the architect or whatever, but he's kind of sidelined in all of this stuff. And it may be the case, we'll have to read the article, that he's now proceeding like without actual designs or blueprints at this point. Just take everything and make it bigger. You know, can't you just do that? Well, if you make this thing twice as long, then make it twice as wide as well. And I guess it doesn't really work that way. And I don't know. Anyway, it seems pretty crazy. But one of the other items that was mentioned, which is hard not to believe, is that the contractors who came in and did the demolition are not getting paid. So, like I said, it's not hard to believe that that's the case. But yeah, okay, so you saw the same thing I did, Justice. It's the same. No need to apologize for it. I saw it on Blue Sky too. Somebody put together a video, and they were saying, and the contractors are getting stiff just like always, and then there's this fight with the architect. That part is documented, the fight with the architect thing. The non-payment to the contractors, I mean, it was an interesting claim. I think they went even further in this Blue Sky video, saying that Trump was telling them that they never were gonna get paid, that was a volunteer job, and didn't you know that? Which sounds very Trumpy, but I have no link to a report about that. That in itself wouldn't be proof either. By the way, of course, you can have a link, and the link is wrong. The link goes to the right place, but the report is wrong. So I don't know. So I find myself in the awkward position having to caution you that Trump might pay his contractors. Don't go down ahead of ourselves here. Oh, okay. He's got some more information on it here. But you know who else has some information? By golly, Greg Dworkin, and he's here, and he's got lots to share with us, and we want to think of something fun to bring him back from the Thanksgiving break with, maybe one of the over-the-top. I always enjoy doing this, even though I know you just keep saying you want it simple and understated, like the Imperial Margarine fanfare. So I'll give you that too. Good morning, Greg. How you doing?
Good morning. So let's bring up something understated.
Yes.
Beauvais Cathedral, 1284. That was top of your mind, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Unlike the Norman Bell Tower in Ely Cathedral in 1322 or
What?
the Lincoln Cathedral in 1185,
Ooh.
the choir vaults of Beauvais Cathedral collapsed because the architects overreached.
Beauvais. He overreaches all the time.
Even though the structure was supposed to be taller, the buttresses are made thinner in order to pass maximum light into the cathedral. Only 12 years after completion, part of the choir vault collapsed, along with a few flying buttresses, which weren't flying anymore. They were
grounded, I guess.
Three-point landing buttresses.
Right.
The collapse was caused by resonant vibrations due to high winds and not really understanding what they were doing when they built it.
Oh, okay. So a little bit of Tacoma Narrows Bridge and a little bit of not knowing what they were doing.
So, Trump and his cathedral.
Yeah.
It
could fall apart on you. Don't
I mean,
go
the
in
Jeffrey Epstein ballroom was ill-conceived in the first place.
It
But
was.
if you've ever been to, I don't know, Salisbury in England or any medieval European town where you got a two-story thatched roof building, and next to it is this humongous cathedral overtowering the entire town. That's what Trump wants with the Jeffrey Epstein ballroom.
Yeah.
And
architects are
it's ugly,
grossed out.
and as ugly as and ridiculous as it is, despite the apologists who say, no, we needed something so we could have a state meeting and not be in tents outside. Well, no, you don't really.
Yeah.
Not this ugly. And you don't need to demolish the East Wing to get there, but too late, already done.
Yeah.
Asbestos all over the place, who knows, since they never checked.
Christy Todd Whitman says it's fine.
This is like anything Melania Trump designs in the, Jackie Kennedy Rose Garden. Whatever it is, tear it out and tear it down as soon as you get back there.
Yeah, all right. Well, so I see the designs that are being circulated have improved somewhat, and I think they got rid of most of the staircases to nowhere, or explained where the staircases actually went. But yeah, you can't just supersize the design like you do with your McDonald's order, I guess. And so unclear whether the same architectural firm is still attached to it, but the chief, the name principal who designed the thing is distancing himself from it somehow. And
well, this is like the 1960s second grade learn how to read books. Abner Tuttle baked bread was the story, and good old Abner Tuttle figured he's going to do everything twice as good, so the bread will come out twice as good. So twice as much flour, twice as much eggs, and then bake it twice as long. And it turned out it burned, and he couldn't figure out why.
Well, I'm sure an MRI will reveal the reasons eventually.
It'll be the greatest MRI ever, and there's nothing wrong.
So resonant.
It's glorious.
Justice gives me this update that basically comes down to no credible reports so far that we can point to that the named firm that did the demolition, which was ASECO, ACECO, Maryland-based demolition company. No credible reports that they haven't been paid. I don't know whether they're embarrassed to say it or it didn't happen, or we'll find out later. But if we do find out later that it did happen, you heard it too soon here first. How about that? I don't know.
There you go.
It was widely spread, and but it would be a common misinformation tactic to slip in something new and credible sounding alongside something that was documented and see if you could just inject it into the conversation.
Right.
Let's do that.
Well, let's just start with some good news because there's so little of it.
All right.
Trump's approval rating drops to 36% in the Gallup poll over the weekend, a new second-term low.
It is low.
And some of the charts in there are just amazing. I mean, from October to November, which is when this latest poll is taken, his disapprove goes up 6 points. I mean, this is a big, dramatic change. Approval goes from 41 to 36, so he drops 5 points. I mean, that's a big swing. And what happened? The shutdown, clearly showing that Harry Enten was correct and the Democrats did, in fact, win the shutdown.
All right.
But also the ongoing nonsense with the economy that people aren't happy about, especially as the holiday.
I can't afford anything.
Closer.
You're doing war crimes, giant ballroom.
Well, the stuff that we think is important, Never seems to be important to the actual voter.
That's okay.
But the economy, yes. And the shutdown got people's notice. Also, YouGov comes out with a poll, Trump approval among men.
Oh, manly
Disapprove 51. That's up 12 points since their last poll. And approve 46. That's -7. So he's underwater with men.
Most men, majority of men say I disapprove. At 51, that has not happened.
Right. Now, how many of those are Nick Fuentes fans and just figure Trump's not enough of a Nazi? I don't know.
Good reminder.
One never knows, but still.
Right. Hey, Affordable Care Act.
But that does suggest the possibility of a blue tsunami, and we'll know more about that tomorrow because it's Monday. That means tomorrow's Tuesday, and Tuesday's Election Day somewhere.
Always.
And tomorrow is Nashville, Tennessee, 7th District.
Yeah. I should have brought some country music to play.
So let's talk a little bit about that 7th District. It's an interesting place centered around Nashville. Most of the 7th District, says the AP, has elected only Republicans to Congress in more than a dozen years. The district also includes parts of heavily Democratic Davidson County, which is home to Nashville. The Nashville area once anchored a separate congressional district favorable to Democrats, but state Republicans redrew the lines in 2022 and divided Davidson County among the 7th and 2 neighboring Republican-friendly districts. Trump carried the 7th District in 2024 with about 60% of the vote.
But now he can't pick it up anymore.
Compared with about 38% for Harris, so it's considered a Trump plus 22 district for that reason. In the Davidson County portion of the district, Harris received 68% of the vote, and that's the district that's voting heavily this time around in the early vote, which compromised about 22% of total votes in the district. Now, you have to have party switchers in order to win. If you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter how good you are. Trump won each of the remaining 13 counties with at least 59% of the vote. So the fact that this is even close is amazing.
That's the win in itself. I mean,
it is. So
I would like to have an actual win. But
what's happening is that the Republicans are putting millions of dollars to defend Matt Van Epps, who is a MAGA Republican, and running against and the incumbent, not the incumbent because the incumbent Green stepped down to do private sector stuff. Mark Green resigned in July, and the Democrat is Afton Ben, and she's an unabashed progressive. A lot of the Democrats in Tennessee call her our AOC. She's very good. She's articulate. Now, if somebody like that is coming close to winning in a 22 plus for Trump in a district,
then you definitely want to run moderate right-wing Republican. Democrats.
I mean, the answer is whether to run a moderate or a right-wing or a progressive Democrat. The answer is yes.
All right, that's true.
But, the point is she has no reason to make this close, and it is close. We know it's close because they're putting a ton of money. We know it's close because they're worried. We know it's close because they've already done 2 tele-rallies for Trump because he doesn't have the juice and energy to go down there in person. And why are they doing that if it's like a gimme? It's not.
Right, we won't give it.
So that's why it's going to be interesting. I'm not expecting to win, but I'm expecting it to be single digits, which in and of itself will be considered a win.
And it's just good news generally, and people get out there and vote, and it gets people. I mean, in a special election all by themselves, there's not so much of an effect on the rest of the ballot because there's no rest of the ballot. Sometimes they throw in something else. It's always important, though, to get out there and scare the crap out of Republicans if you can, especially if it makes them spend money. But, I like widening the playing field. I love competing in these places where they thought it was a gimme and it isn't, and it should be. Nothing should be now.
It doesn't just make them spend money.
No. What else does it do?
Makes them retire.
Yes. That's
Republican
exactly
U.S.
right.
Representative Troy Nehls of Texas says he will retire in 2026, one of the biggest Trump suck-ups in Congress.
Yeah.
But don't worry, his twin brother will take his place and run for president.
I saw that. It was very funny. Right on the heels of his retirement announcement, You're going to get an identical twin, and probably, I guess, apparently identical politically as well. Suits the district. I did see somebody make a great comment on there. I wish I had that at hand, but somebody said, "What is this Scooby-Doo crap happening here? Identical twin, replace him in Congress? You can't do that."
Well,
you can
it's Texas, so you can.
Yeah, all right. Well, that was interesting, but it's a good point. And people are, just as we discussed last week, Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people. And I think Troy Nehls, same situation. I think he'll, I guess, did he say he was retiring early or just not running again? But a lot of people are saying, I got my 5 years in. I won't leave right now, but this will be my last race. I don't care anymore. I'm going to take my pension and run away.
So he's retiring after his term ends in 2026.
Okay. So
he'll focus on his family.
Yeah, right. Which is impossible to tell from his brother's family, so he could really be focusing on any of them there.
But in case you were wondering or never really paid that close attention or don't really care, no, he was not the only Republican to vote against releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files. That was another guy.
All right. His identical twin. Sure. My evil twin did it. That's a good excuse. Right, I didn't vote that way. That was my evil twin, who's, exactly as evil as I am. Well, all right. And, the mounting casualty count, as they call it, the roll call, the trade rag, does do this all the time. And I think people are sort of catching. Some people are new to the game, and some people are just noticing for the first time that there are years where there's an enormous number of retirements, and it has to do with the political atmosphere and most often the sense that you will lose or have to fight way harder than you want to defend your seat.
Or get your house firebombed.
Yeah,
we'll
right.
Get to that when we talk about
that's
Indiana.
True, too. But there are some exceptional years, but they track this thing, which they call the casualty list. All announced retirements, or they're running for higher office, or they die, or whatever it is. And there are certain numbers where this peaks, so it's an ongoing phenomenon. And when the ball starts rolling, and other people say, "Wow, they're retiring," and that one, you know what? I've been thinking I'm not really into this anymore, too. And and when you retire, even when it's a very red, super red district, first of all, we're seeing what's happening in Nashville right now, competitive despite the fact that it never should be, but also no incumbent in a race. An open seat race is that much more likely to go off the rails in some places, and in some places those seats will flip. So it's very interesting. Plus, even when it doesn't, it usually means Republicans in the district jockeying for position will stab one another in the back with great opposition research that we can use against them later when they run for something else.
Yeah. And by the way, for those who were wondering, Clay Higgins from Louisiana was a guy that voted against releasing the Epstein files, another Trump acolyte. And what's the difference between Troy Nehls and Clay Higgins? Again, the answer is yes.
Or possibly no. None. Okay. What else?
All right, but let's talk about Indiana since we brought it up. I brought it up.
Gary, Indiana?
Gary, Indiana.
Right.
A new post by Republican state senator in Indiana says she will not cave on redistricting, as she shares that she was just the target of a pipe bomb threat due to D.C. political pundits. And that adds to strong statements from Senators Greg Walker, who declined an Oval Office visit to strong-arm him and accused the White House of violating the Hatch Act. And he said, I'd report it to the authorities if I thought there were any.
That's a good one. Yeah, they're really leaning on those guys. The Republicans there just I'm not exactly sure I know all the reasoning for it, but they just really don't want to get involved in this thing.
And also, Senator Michael Bohacek earlier this weekend said, I wasn't going to talk about my position, but I'm an absolute no now because Donald Trump called Governor Tim Walz, a retard. And I have a special needs kid, and it's really offensive, and I really wish that Trump would just step back and think about what he's doing and how he's ruining this country, and there's no way I'm going to go along with this.
All right. And by the way, you don't have to have a special needs kid to realize that that's no good, because people will tell you all the time.
Is that people going public with this and their reasons are simply more of the mounting evidence that Trump's a lame duck and he
Yeah.
doesn't have the juicy end.
If you're a Republican, you have to have that in your family in order to care about it. But
Yeah, of course.
But that's okay. So, sometimes they
It
fall
only
on the
matters
right
if it
side of the
happens to me.
line.
Syndrome, whatever that's called.
Yeah. But yes, and he's losing support for that, and people are angry with him. Republican politicians in the area, and as you mentioned, they now feel under threat. And oh my gosh, another thing that people said this was happening to them, and I didn't believe it, but now it's happening to me, and I do believe it, and I care about it. And maybe Trump is a bad person, and we shouldn't work with him.
All right. Well, let's talk about the big story of the day. Those
are
big too. They're all important.
Oh, yes. All right.
But the really big story that everybody's talking about, including the gossip sheets, Punch Bowl, and Political Playbook, is the fact that Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of War Crimes.
Yeah. Well, somebody has to be the Secretary of that.
So there's this really interesting blog that we often quote called Just Security, and I often post on the Pundit Roundup about it, sometimes mention it on the show. And it was co-founded by a guy named Ryan Goodman. Mm-hmm. Ryan Goodman is a law professor currently at NYU, was at Harvard.
And
more importantly, he used to work for the Department of Defense.
Oh.
Well, and is well familiar with a lot of this stuff. And he's talking about Pete Hegseth's stories over the weekend, which started this with the Washington Post. Let me just read you the headline so you get an idea. Hic-seth order on first Caribbean boat strike, officials say, quote, kill them all, end quote. As two men clung to a stricken burning ship targeted by SEAL Team 6, the Joint Special Operations Commander followed the Defense Secretary's order to leave no survivors. Which, in response, Trump said, no big deal, no big deal. Oh, well, you know what? He didn't say it. You're lying. It's all fake news.
Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted it if they'd asked me. Like, if I had been involved in this at all as Commander-in-Chief, I would have done it differently.
From the story, Mitch Bradley, Admiral,
Mitch,
overseeing the operation from Fort Bragg in North Carolina, told people on the secure conference call that the survivors were still legitimate targets because they could theoretically call other traffickers to retrieve them.
Oh, I see.
According to two people, he ordered the second strike to fulfill Hegseth's directive. Everybody must be killed.
That is
that's the background to this video you're going to play with.
Wow. How are they going to call help? Like, did they bring a jar of rice to put their phone in, and in a couple hours they would be able to float around
in the water? And it's a ridiculous defense.
But
that's a defense. So let's play the video and see what Ryan Goodman has to say.
All right. We've got to pause it. I think the right place. By the way, I discovered that there's a little feature here that you can play it at double speed, which is also fun. But I'm not going to do that. Although
not for this one. We should do that for others.
It's serious. But for if you want to. All right. Here we go. Let's see if we're on the right place here.
And always great to have any conversation with you.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, exactly. I think the way you framed it, assuming that the government is correct, that the United States is currently in an armed conflict with these drug cartels, then the law of armed conflict would apply, laws of war, otherwise known as international humanitarian law, the Geneva Conventions and the like. And then everything you said, I agree with every single piece of it. The order is a no quarters order, meaning that nobody who survives should be allowed to survive, and they should all be killed. We'll take no survivors. And it is absolutely a war crime. Like I would say if it was I would say there's a strong case there's a war crime or something like that.
Lawyers usually say.
The situation. Yeah. It is absolutely a war crime.
I mean, I guess it's the war crime. Like that was like the first war crime.
Well, he's going to go and define it and show you why.
All right. Well, let's let him do it then.
Was illegal all the way back to the Lieber Code. It was illegal in the Hague Conventions at the late 19th century, early 20th century. It is in the Rome Statute for the International Criminal Court, both in an international armed conflict and a non-international armed conflict, as a war crime. It is in the Department of Defense's Law of War Manual as a war crime. And one other thing that I think is really important, maybe just to say at the outset, because this is a piece that's been missing from a lot of the social media and other public commentary. If you look at the Department of Defense's Law of War Manual, there's a section that is about the duty to disobey clearly illegal orders.
We know about that.
Yeah, the big controversy that's going on now, the accusations against Mark Kelly and others. All right.
But
yes, this is slow
ahead,
on
Ryan.
the uptake.
Really great, and it is not just for lawyers.
Oh dear,
something that
it moved us. All right, so I'm gonna have to see if I can jump back. All right. Well, this is a very temperamental player, and let's see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this thing back.
Yeah, it's come from Joyce Vance's blog.
Yeah.
So it's not on YouTube, so it's a little bit hard to get it to be at the right spot.
Yeah, and I had it, and too bad. All right. Well, you know what? Our break is coming up, and maybe I can use the break to get back to where we were. We started. I remember where we started. Yeah. But okay. Yes. So he's about to explain
a very important point.
Damn. This is the worst.
I won't.
All right. Yeah. Don't spill the beans. I'll play it at double speed.
I won't spill the beans. We'll play
now.
it after the break. And that means you have to stay with us, folks.
Yeah. It looked like it was going to time out. And I said, by the way, do you know the end point of this clip that we want to jump out at? Or were you just going to shout out at me? Okay.
No.
Because this is a half-hour episode, everyone.
It's 3:21 to 5:18.
Okay. All right. Well, we're running it at double speed just now. By the way, you want to hear any of that at double speed just for fun?
Narco-terrorism. The new reporting is that in the first of those strikes,
I just wanted to know whether or not their voice tone
kind of
changed,
funny.
and it didn't.
So a little bit. But she's got a low register voice, so it works out just fine. All right, I'll keep one eye on the thing running in the background and one eye on the music, which we got to run in a few minutes. That was I had a feeling something was going to go wrong with this as we were monkeying with this player before.
Yeah, start it at 350 if you can, and
we'll
see where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, if you hear it over again, that's not the worst thing in the world. Okay, something else is probably the worst thing in the world. And by the way, I guess I need to pause this thing. Wow, all right. Just so I don't overshoot the mark. This is maybe one of the most difficult players I've ever dealt with, an embedded thing. But it's hinting at how valuable the information is. It's so valuable, it's just not going to be easy to get. So anyway, we'll be back in 2 minutes with it.
Hi, I'm Scott Anderson, the guy that writes the daily summary for this show, Kagro in the Morning. Thank you to everyone that supports this show. Many of you send donations through PayPal, Patreon, Square Cash, Radio Public, and so on. Some of you write your own essays and send them in, or read articles with your own commentary. We appreciate it. Now, some of you are listening to this and thinking, I'd like to help, but isn't there something I could do that wouldn't require money or effort? Why, yes, there is. You can just like us. On Daily Kos, they call it the recommend button. YouTube has a thumbs up. There are hearts and likes and love buttons. Tap our love button. Tap our love button every day. Share our shows and summaries on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube and iTunes, Stitcher and Amazon. Most of these places allow you to write a review, so a sentence or two would be great. Recommend us to social media, or tell your friends to listen to the show. You aren't just helping us, you're helping them find their new favorite thing to listen to. You could change the world. So thank you in advance from me and everybody else in the world.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Hey, it's a live show, so
yeah, I just want to remind people we are not professionals, so by all means, try this at home.
Yes, go ahead, go for it. All right, so I've re-queued this. Well, I replayed it at double speed in the break so that I could get back to approximately where we were. Ryan Goodman explaining to Joyce Vance, really, why the war crime involved here is like the fundamental war crime, the very first one, and what's wrong with it, and it's everything.
And they should all be killed. We'll take no survivors.
I meant the commander.
And it is absolutely a war crime. Like I would say there's a strong case there's a war crime or something like that. If that were the situation, it is absolutely a war crime. It was illegal all the way back to the Lieber Code. It was illegal in the Hague Conventions at the late 19th century, early 20th century. It is in the Rome Statute for the International Criminal Court, both in an international armed conflict and a non-international armed conflict, as a war crime. It is in the Department of Defense's Law of War Manual as a war crime. And one other thing that I think is really important maybe just to say at the outset, because this is a piece that's been missing from a lot of the social media and other public commentary.
Important point.
If you look at the Department of Defense's Law of War Manual, there's a section that is about the duty to disobey clearly illegal orders.
Yeah.
Right.
In the DoD Law War Manual, their Department of Defense's Law War Manual, the paradigmatic example that is given in the next sentence of a clearly illegal order is an order to fire on shipwrecked people. Like it's that clear.
And the reporting is that these two men are clinging to the hull of their destroyed boat in the ocean, right? I mean, this isn't like they're in any sort of safety.
Correct.
Yeah. And so, there's historic precedent, right? There are war crimes prosecutions that confirm what you're saying, which is that there's just not a question here. Like you, I often say, well, here's both sides of the story. There just aren't two sides here. Last night in the newsletter, I wrote about a World War II example involving a U-boat commander. That's often referred to. I think that there are Vietnam era examples. What do you think the clearest precedent is?
So I think there are two clear precedents, almost because the facts are almost the exact same in both precedents. And in both precedents, they actually are a clear match for what's allegedly or reportedly happened on September 2nd, 2025. It's the World War II precedent, the Peleus trial. So for folks who want to Google that, and they're like Peleus, in which the German soldiers, Nazis, had sunk a ship, a Greek ship that had been commissioned to the British military. They sunk the ship, and then they were given the order by the commander, the captain of the ship, to fire upon through a machine gun and throw grenades at the people left shipwrecked, clinging to vestiges of the boat that they had just sunk, the Peleus. That's 1945 Nuremberg trial type stuff. Peleus actually refers to.
Stop it there.
Okay, we're getting
it goes on and on and on, and it's great, and people really should go listen to it. But we don't necessarily have time on the show for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, but they make the very excellent and very basic point that in the U.S. military's own.
No, we don't pay attention to what other people say. I don't care what they say at the international thing. Well, it's in your Department of Defense, not Department of War, Department of Defense manual.
And call the department whatever you want, but it's in the manual, and basically it just says, don't do war crimes. 2, disobey unlawful orders. Well, what's a unlawful order? Oh, I'm glad you asked. Here's an example.
Shipwrecked sailors.
Right. So
is one of those orders that you need to disobey.
Drunk Pete Hegseth writes down.
Well, but that's why that admiral in North Carolina is in trouble.
Yes, or someone. But I guess he's the one that they'll throw under the bus. The weekend was spent with Hic-seth and others saying, it was very manly. Yes, we ordered killing them all. That's a huge war crime. We did not say that. It was somebody else. Somebody else must have said that. Admiral, you did it.
So the Washington Post story comes out.
All right.
And it's a big deal. And by the way, the labor code war crime that Ryan Goodman was talking about is you can't coerce forced labor during wartime. That's all part of the war crime thing. That's what that references.
All right.
So the Washington Post comes out with that story that Hegseth says kill them all. And first he denies it and then says, well, we're totally entitled to do everything.
Right. Sure.
This morning's story is Trump says Hegseth denied issuing order to kill boat crew.
Mm-hmm. That's what he denies.
The president also said he wouldn't have wanted a second strike on a boat allegedly carrying drugs. Trump has a sixth sense for I'm not associating myself with an obvious crime.
Yes.
He did it.
Right.
And by the way, another interesting thing is there have been other boat strikes since that first one.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And in none of them, as far as we know, did the military kill any survivors.
Yeah.
So you get the impression that somebody told them, hey, you can't do that.
But, I'm sure that's what happened. But what's amazing is someone almost assuredly told them that the first time too. And they were like, no. That example was in there as things you can do. No, look at it. Why would you put an example of go ahead and do a war crime in the middle of what's a war crime section?
But undoubtedly, those things were after the fact. It's very unlikely that people said, oh, while they're in the water, don't do that. It was after you found out what you did to people in the water. People said, yes, can't do that.
But somebody must have said, circle back. And then at that point you say, circle back for what? Well, we got to get those guys we missed. No, don't. Like someone live on the spot
window.
Knew that.
You don't have time to do a whole legal analysis.
No legal analysis. It's in the right in the manual, even though they don't tell you where the chow hole is.
If they were going to ignore it before they hit the boat, they were going to ignore it until somebody else said, no, you can't ignore it.
Yeah, I guess they clearly did that. So what's amazing is that from top to bottom, they assembled a team that did not pay attention in class.
Right. Anyway, that was Joyce Vance and Ryan Goodman. Now, from the conservative point of view,
there's a
fellow named Jack Goldsmith.
Oh, yeah.
Harvard law guy.
Oh, you can torture.
Very, very well known in conservative circles.
Yes.
And he writes a blog called Executive Functions. A dishonorable strike, indulging all assumptions in favor of the administration's boat strikes, killing helpless men is murder.
Yes.
I mean, he's not just talking about war crimes. He's talking about flat out murder.
Regular crimes. We don't need the hate.
For you lawyers out there, this is an extremely well-written, documented, as lawyers tend to do, piece. In section 5.4.7 of the DoD Law of War Manual says prohibition against declaring that no quarter be given. Mm-hmm. It is forbidden to declare that no quarter will be given.
Stop declaring. Don't do it. Don't declare it.
This means
nothing.
It is prohibited to order that legitimate offers of surrender will be refused or that detainees such as unprivileged belligerents will be summarily executed. Mm. Moreover, it's also prohibited to conduct hostilities on the basis that there shall be no survivors or to threaten the adversary with the denial of quarter. This rule is based on both humanitarian and military considerations. The rule also applies during non-international armed conflict. Mm. Old principle, laws of war, again, Hague in 1907, 1863, government rules governing military conduct during the Civil War. Whoever intentionally inflicts additional wounds on an enemy already wholly disabled to kill such an enemy, or who orders or encourages soldiers to do so, shall suffer death if duly convicted, whether he belongs to the Army of the United States or is an enemy captured after having committed of his misdeed. Mm-hmm. Okay. The manual defines people placed hors de combat. They may not be made the object of attack, and the definition of hors de combat includes persons otherwise incapacitated by shipwreck.
Ta-da! It's not a shipwreck. We shot it. Yeah, it's wrecked now. Shipwreck is when you run into an iceberg or an island or a reef or something. Doesn't count if you shoot it.
Now, Ryan Goodman, also in Just Security,
I'm not saying
previously, mid-month, November, wrote about the fact that international law obligates states to stop intelligence support for the U.S. boat strikes. And therefore, the United Kingdom, Netherlands, Canada have all stated that they're not sharing information with the U.S. anymore, including Colombia.
That's okay. We don't need intelligence to indiscriminately murder. Just do it indiscriminately.
Right. In recent days, EU leaders in member states such as France have told journalists they consider the boat strikes flatly illegal. That's the strikes themselves. But this specific incident of shooting the shipwreck survivors is another level of murder.
Yes. Right. Very clear. Attacking the boat in the first instance, and everybody survives and they're floating in the water, and then you pick them up and you take them to the Hilton Hotel for a week, and
that itself
still
is
a crime.
Arguably this, that, or something else.
Yes.
But shooting the people who were in the water is just as clear as crystal.
Taking them to the Hilton Hotel and shooting them there, also a war crime, just for the record.
So the politics
Not
of that...
Not because it's the Hilton, but... Yeah.
Are also clear. This, again, New York Times. Lawmakers suggest follow-up boat strike could be a war crime. Top Republicans have joined Democrats in demanding answers about the escalating military campaign. The Trump administration is aimed at targeting drug traffickers. And then Heath Mayo, conservative on Twitter, gives you an idea of how most people are reacting to this. And I think it is most people. We've known since the beginning that Pete Hegseth wasn't fit to be Secretary of Defense, but Republican senators rubber-stamped his nomination anyway. Right. He's done nothing but disgrace our country since the day he took the job.
Drunk ass.
Washington Post, congressional committees to scrutinize U.S. killing of boat strike survivors in a rare split with the Trump administration. GOP-led panels in the House and Senate say they want a full accounting in the September military attack. It's not just Roger Wicker in the Senate. It's also people in the House, which is the
Clay Higgins.
Senate Committee on Armed Services, or whatever their acronym is, because they go by acronyms.
Right.
Political Playbook this morning. This story looks like it has legs. Here's why. First, Congress is taking these allegations extremely seriously. Tim Kaine, Mike Turner of Ohio, Don Bacon of Nebraska, Republicans. Chuck Schumer has called for a full unedited video of the attack to be released. Second, Trump sounded intriguingly lukewarm last night when asked about the story. Trump didn't say any of it last night. He said, I don't know anything about it. Hegseth said he didn't say that, and I believe him.
Sure. Right. But he doesn't know anything about anything. He also, by the way, there was another round of crazy pardons. I don't know any of those people. Sure, whatever. I don't know what part
the fact that one was a narco-terrorist is important. But again, that guy has enough money to pay off Trump, so it's pretty clear what happened to me.
Yes, I think you're right.
More than 2 days after Washington Post broke the story, says Politico, the president can offer no assurances about what actually happened. Says he wouldn't have supported a second strike. Frankly, he was too busy worrying about the size of his ballroom.
Hey-o. Yeah. And by the way, he absolutely would have supported a second strike. I believe it 100%. In a meeting, if they had said, Mr. President, should we go back and kill those guys? Yeah, sure. They're narco-terrorists. He would have no idea that that's against the law. Everybody who was in the military would know. Right. They did it anyway.
The important context here is that plenty of Republicans and supporters were already deeply unnerved by U.S. activity in the Caribbean, both the legality and the risk. Trump made the case for military action again last night, claiming each destroyed boat would have cost 25,000 American lives due to illegal drugs on board. The president is well aware that getting tough with drug traffickers played well with both Hill Republicans and core MAGA voters. If they had small amounts of cocaine on the boat, you can't claim that. If they had fentanyl on the boat, that's a different story. Small amounts of fentanyl could kill that many people.
No.
But, that's a technicality. There's a problem here, too, says Politico. At the weekend, Trump just happened to pardon a convicted drug trafficker and Juan Orlando Hernandez, former Honduran leader who a U.S. jury found to be facilitating mass shipments of cocaine into America. The New York Times has a great piece on the jaw-dropping nature of Trump's decision. Again, I assume anybody who was doing that is rich. Anybody who's rich can buy off Trump.
Right.
It just seems pretty simple to me. Even in an age, I just don't understand how he could be pardoned.
Right,
well,
sure.
Duh.
Yeah.
Have you not been paying attention for 10 years? Even in an age of truly bonkers use of the pardon power, this is causing huge consternation in Hill Republicans who have been out there trying to defend Trump's Caribbean policy. And Trump blamed Hernandez's conviction on Joe Biden.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. This is first of all, he was the actual president of Honduras, which is a little bit weird. And normally you say, now, come on, was the president of Honduras really involved in drug smuggling? Yes. And that's a huge problem. Well, how much problem could you cause if you're the president of Honduras and a drug smuggler? You could be the largest drug smuggler by volume into the United States in history. And he was. So they arrested him and extradited him, and he was in prison. And by the way, in order for something like that to have gone down so that somebody like that gets convicted under Biden, that investigation had to have started under Donald Trump, and it did. And by the way, one of the top prosecutors on the case, Emil Bove, who certainly now thinks, oh, what a mistake I made convicting that guy. I'm so foolish. Mr. President, you're so wise.
Well, Politico goes on to point out that, this is also part and parcel of why Pete Hegseth won't let actual reporters report on the Pentagon anymore. And everybody who's there is basically a conservative influencer toady.
Yeah,
they don't use those words. Those are my words, but that's what they are.
They could put that on a badge.
They call them fringe, largely conservative outlets.
Yes. All right, fine. So, you're not allowed to report on him from inside the building unless you pledge to let him see the story first, essentially. And no one wanted to do that. Yeah. Good, fine. He's terrible. This is amazing. And I'm not even certain how he's going to handle things now, because somebody did point out over the weekend, he's going to, since he's now in danger of international war crimes tribunals, he's going to do whatever it takes to cling to the job and do whatever Trump asks in the hope that he'll get pardoned. That'll only help him in the United States, of course. But one, I don't know that they definitely understand that. And two, yeah, you might look for more of the same and worse from Hegseth as he insists he's got to do whatever Trump asks. But now he'll be very confused. He won't know what to do since Trump is now saying, I wouldn't have done that. No, I'm distancing myself from that. But I did that because you said I had to do that. No. Oh, well, how do I walk this tightrope? Follow every order you give me so that I get pardoned when you're throwing me under the bus. And the answer is, too late, man. You're under the bus. You're going to be in trouble. Everything Trump touches dies. You will too. And couldn't happen to a nicer guy. But if it did, I would say it should happen to you twice instead. All right. Just wanted to get an opinion part on the record there.
Well,
that guy really sucks.
So there's new polling out this morning from the Economist YouGov. I mentioned some of it about how poorly they're doing with men on 5 core topics included in the new Economist YouGov poll, which is a write-up done by Alex Samuels over at Daily Kos. Trump is underwater. Just 37% of Americans approve of his handling of the environment. 50% disapprove. Education, similar divide, 37-51. Abortion, 32-50. Healthcare, 33-57. And those healthcare premiums are really starting to hit home. And 28% approve of his handling of the investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, while 55% disapprove. These add up. Trump's job approval rating is 19 points underwater. And, overall 38-57, not far from the 36 that Gallup got. So Gallup is not an outlier. He's basically under 40 on pretty much all the polls. And he's had a rapid drop over the last month, again, which is a combination of the Epstein files, the government shutdown, and the economy, all of which matter. So, he's just doing badly.
Yes,
and
under
he's
40.
Doing badly with those groups who sort of gave him a shot because they weren't paying attention. Now they did. They have buyer's remorse. Yeah. And that matters a lot. So even if we lose the election tomorrow, which we're likely to do, if it's under double digits for a win for the Republicans, that would be a setback for them, and people are going to pay attention. So that's basically the roundup for what happened over the weekend. As is typical, a ton of things happened over the weekend, and somehow or other were done by 9:45.
That is pretty remarkable.
Nothing happens, and then on Wednesday we can go until 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's
I'm not certain
what always
that
happens.
is.
I don't know why.
Well, we're able to go more in depth in things because we feel like we have more time. I think I played it on
double speed.
No, yeah. That could be. I'll play the rest of this thing. Maybe I should just play the rest of their podcast it was very, very important. And we'll give you the link, of course.
It was excellent. It was really, really good.
Everyone
but if you
will
want to
find
read something, read Jack Goldsmith and listen to Brian Goodman.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's who is at Joyce Vance's Substack, but I'm sure Ryan Goodman is writing about it at Just Security as well. But that video, as difficult as it is to play, you can play it at different speeds. That seems entertaining. I want to try a quarter speed and try like that sloth in the Zootopia movie. It could be funny. I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. I just see a lot of commercials for it. And they got one joke, and it's good. All right. Well, many, many other things happening over the weekend, and I can't remember what any of them are, but that's what Instapaper is for me and for you. There probably are other links in the Zoom that we didn't get to today that I might be able to cover for you, but I don't know. I'll have to look up. But it was going to have a lot to do with this insanity of the war crimes because, gosh, just basic human code is being violated here in front of everyone by the shining city on a hill, which sucks for the rest of us. But American exceptionalism. Right. We take exception to the international law of war. No, by the way, we don't. A couple of idiots do, and we know their names, and in many cases where they live, which will be important for the international authorities, not you or me or anyone else on the street. This is not up to you. This is above your pay grade. If they're held to account for their international crimes, it will have to be someone else's doing, because the United States doesn't sign on to that stuff because it used to be beyond. Of course, we're not doing war crimes, except if we are blatantly doing the most obvious war crime in the world and admitting to it to the newspapers. But other than that, you're not likely to catch us doing that. All right. Well, all right, and I'll scroll through the rest of the stuff. Approval ratings of under 40 is good news. By the way, you don't want to face international condemnation plus a huge shock among the domestic population and go into that situation under 40 in approval. That's the spot you don't want to be on. You can get away with crazy stuff if you're insanely popular going into it. I don't recommend it as a course of action, just, legally speaking, but you don't want to do that. And it made me think about him being under 40 here. These very often these trade mags that we read love to do things about 40 under 40, like 40 people who are accomplishing amazing things who are under the age of 40. They should do a list of Republican incumbents who are under 40% approval. Who are facing re-election come 2026 and might decide to retire before then. That might be worth doing. All right. Well, we'll carry on from here. And you want to, if there's anything else you want to sneak in, or you find out something later on while you're away and off the microphone, feel free to pass it along.
I'll send it to you. But
sure.
I don't really have much else.
Okay.
That's what's really going on. But that's a pretty good summary.
All right. And all right. Well, I'll take it from here. And if I say something in the next 8 minutes,
you know what I'll do? I'll try to look up where
quarter
comes from. Quarter.
Okay. Yeah,
and I'll send it to you.
Sure. Thank you. That was a little bit of chat in between on the break. I'm wondering about that. And if anybody else has any idea, the terminology of no quarter.
Where the terminology comes from.
Right. We know what it means. It means you don't take any prisoners. That I understand. Then my question is, why do they refer it as quarter? Was it like we won't give them any quarters in our prison? So no quarters for them, like a no quartering of troops, but in this case, no quartering of anybody. Troops from the other side either, because we're going to kill them? Or is it some archaic meaning? I don't know. I'm interested in the etymological origin of the term. Greg might be able to find that and add it. And I'll tell you what. Here, I'm going to play another thing.
Oh,
if I can engineer it. First, I have to go and open it up. But I saw it's a TikTok. I seen a TikTok, and it was really interesting, and I thought it was a great explanation of culture war problems and the psychological root of them, and examining them from a non-political perspective, although you can get a pretty good idea of where people fall on the political spectrum if they're like this thing that they've described here. I'm going to have to email it to myself.
While you're setting it up, let me just read to you what I found on No Quarter, because it's interesting. The phrase no quarter originated in warfare with two main theories, like nobody really knows exactly why. Okay. One is that it referred to not housing or quartering defeated soldiers, which meant they were not taken prisoner, which meant they were killed on the spot. Right. Or it referred to a lack of friendliness and good relations with the people you were about to kill. As in the idiom, keep good quarters. Today, the phrase means to show no mercy.
Okay. Well, that we know of the meaning. But I didn't know about that, I guess now, archaic meaning of keep what? Friendly quarter?
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never heard that one. But I can certainly understand it as like, we won't be quartering you.
You don't
anywhere.
have 18th century sensibilities. That's why you never
No, I don't. Nor sense. However, Jane Austen did, and you can read up on 18th century sense and sensibility with her. I refer you to another author that has expertise in. All right, here, let me play you this, and you might find it interesting. This is sort of random, and I think we can still fit it in if I start now. And this is a TikToker.
The key to understanding the world today is in this comic right here. This boomer comic has been making the rounds on Facebook for at least a decade.
Now, you can't see the comic, but he will describe it to you. But it's very far side looking in its presentation.
And it portrays a brave older Marine in a coffee shop, where the barista says, "Can I interest you in a soy latte?" He says, "No, just coffee, black." Caramel macchiato? Just coffee, black.
You get it,
Iced
right?
Peppermint mocha? Just coffee, black. Frappe? Now, the first thing you'll notice is that this scenario has never occurred once anywhere in the history of the world.
Now, that's true. And by the way, this TikToker is Jason K. Pargin, Pargin, and he's making a great point. But yeah, it's never happened anywhere. You go to a coffee shop. I've never seen a barista say, "I'm going to try to force a different coffee on you." No, they don't care.
And if you say, well, yeah, but it's just a joke, I'm saying the thing that it's exaggerating has never occurred. But the perception of the world that caused the artist to create this and motivated people to share this millions of times is incredibly important. Because in reality, no one ever took his black coffee from him. Every shop like this has black coffee. He can also get it at any gas station or any McDonald's drive-thru or from home.
Sure.
All that happened is the range of options for other people expanded, and he perceived that as persecution, as his choice having been taken away. This is not political. This is a human nature thing. Most people are not satisfied to simply have the option to live their life the way they want. They also want to feel normal.
Now, yeah, this is not only explaining the culture war, but explains, where the problem lies. It's not necessarily political. This is right, but this really gets at the heart of it.
They want to walk around and see that most other people have made the same choice they made. And if over time they see that their own personal preference has become less popular and even worse, is now seen as being basic or unsophisticated, they will perceive the mere existence of those other options as a criticism of them, even if they've never heard anybody voice that criticism. This is why it's so important for some people to imagine the archetype of the angry vegan. Even though, one, I have never run into one of those people in real life, not even once. And two, meat statistically is more popular now than it has ever been in the history of the world. There is basic psychological comfort in knowing that you're conforming to what the world wants and in the reassurance that that world is not going to change. And this is why it doesn't help to simply tell people you can keep doing the thing you were doing. No one's stopping you from drinking your coffee. Because it's not about the coffee. It's the fear that if everybody else stops drinking coffee the way I drink it, then I will become an outcast. And that is scary to someone who suddenly is remembering how they have always treated outcasts.
That, I thought, was the most incredible point at the end of that thing, right? Not only do we now psychologically understand what it is that drives them to complain that my choice is being taken away when it isn't, but I now realize, oh my God, I'm the outcast. And I know that I hate, persecute, and ostracize outcasts. They're going to start coming for me. That was a great psychological point. I'm glad we squeezed it in. All right, Greg, we'll see you on Wednesday.
Okay.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We just managed to get that one under the wire. It was well timed. Although I did have to play the outro music right at the payoff sentence. But that really, I think, laid it out very clearly for me. But made some great points along the way as well. But the real killer point, I thought, was at the end there. But yeah, of course, it's true that you could point out to people, no one has ever taken your choice away. And, this is obviously very easily translatable to everything culture war-ish going on around us. Nobody ever took away the choice of black coffee. Obviously, it's the base of every coffee drink at the place. They even have lots of different kinds of coffee. And but it's a good point right at the outset, right? Everybody gets the joke, even though the thing that it's exaggerating has never happened, right? There's no barista has ever said, I'd like to make this job more complicated for myself. I want black coffee. No, can't I spend 10 more minutes making your drink for you? No. Okay, there's up sales. There's always that, I suppose. And I wouldn't be terribly surprised to meet a friendly barista who at one point sees that the guy has been coming in for a year ordering black coffee and saying to them at some point when it's not busy and there's nobody behind him in line, hey, have you ever thought about trying any of our other drinks? You might really like them. I take particular pride in making some very delicious drinks, and you might like, in fact, I could give you, actually a barista at Starbucks wouldn't have the latitude to say, I'll give you, I'll buy you one maybe, but I can't give you a free sample. But, you might try it out on somebody, but nobody's going to fight with you over, and keep insisting that you try something else, even though you've made your order. It's bad customer service. And if anything, a barista will say, why aren't you offering me a iced peppermint macchiato? And the answer is, you've made your preference clear. My job is to give you what you want, provided we have that. It's very easy. So, duh. But anyway, I thought more interesting was not only has that never happened, but nothing like it has ever happened, and nothing like that ever would happen. But it is the specter of being confronted with all of those options that makes people react that way. And they do, he does point out it's not a political thing, it's a human nature thing. Though sometimes they certainly tend to overlap. And the more likely you are to be overwhelmed by these options, the more likely you are to be reactionary. And the more reactionary you are, the more likely you are, I guess, to be open to conservative political views of your reactionism. Is it reactionism? Reactionary? I don't know what that is. Anyway, that thing. And I see it in myself. I'm an old man at some level, right? So I go out to some of the fast casual places because I am casually dressed and want some food fast. But I'm overdressed for McDonald's or something like that. Or I'm old enough that I don't feel good after I eat that. Let me have one of these other things. You go to one of the salad places, right? Or any place that I go now, and I'm confronted right away with pick your protein, and I get all cantankerous about pick your why should I? What do you mean? Why should you pick your protein? That's called going to a restaurant and ordering. Do you want steak or do you want chicken? Right? But in the old style menu, you go to the chicken section. There's no pick your protein. Yeah, but they're telling you, if you want this one or that one, you can have any protein you want on any of our meals. That's more flexible. Why don't you want more flexibility? I don't know. You call it a protein, yargle bargle. You get that kind of reaction. And like, I don't know if I worry so much about am I basic? I am. That doesn't worry me. I can't change that. But I could fake change it, or I could try some new things. There's nothing wrong with that. And I guess we have, in terms of the different kinds of cuisines available around here, because we have, thankfully, such a diverse area. By the way, yes, Loudoun County, not all that super white and Republican like you would think from reading the headlines of stories from around here, but in fact, quite ethnically diverse, and the food proves it, and it's fantastic. Anyway, including the coffee, by the way, lots of ethnic coffee available as well. So anyway, but I get the idea. It's interesting to me that being overwhelmed by the choices is like, being frightened by all this, or, hey, I don't like all these people who order all these fancy coffees. Why though? Why should that matter to you? I guess it could make a difference I'm waiting in line for a coffee and I just want black coffee. And the guy in front of me is taking 10 minutes to describe or decide on his coffee. And in fact, the rest of the joke, which isn't even included in his recitation of what's in the comic, is the last thing being said is, I'll have to see if I can find it again. But there's a woman behind him in line. And I guess I can play it on silent so that I can see this thing. A woman behind him in line who says, just make up your mind already. You're holding up the line. I don't know. His head is blocking the last thing. And of course, he's not holding up the line trying to make a choice. It's, part of the joke that the barista is allegedly trying to force on him. And, she's got a nose ring. So there you go. Obviously, she's in a communist way trying to force freedom of choice on him. Damn it. Anyway, so I guess it could cost you like, all right, well, I have to wait in line 5 more minutes because people are making complicated orders. But then if that's really bothering you, are you really going to wait in that line for black coffee? No, you're going to go elsewhere. That's what he's saying. Jason, is it? And I should give credit again here if I can. Pergin, was it? Pergin. It only comes up every once in a while on the screen here. Here we are. Jason K. Pargin, Pargin. Anyway, it's a very good point, I think, and explains, all right, well, what it really is a fear of finding out that, life has passed you by. The thing that you like is no longer the most popular, the most often ordered. I'm out of the ordinary, and that's really it, right? Well, what does that mean that I'm out of the ordinary? If most people want caramel macchiatos, are they going to make fun of me for only wanting black coffee? And the truth is, 1, they don't care. They're just out to get caramel macchiatos. 2, if they see you with your black coffee, they'll say, Nothing, because I don't know what's in your cup. Who cares? But the feeling in that guy's head is the caramel macchiatos are going to gang up on me. And I guess, I don't know, psychologically, this is where it becomes, it's not political because it doesn't make any sense. But I guess the psychological feeling of there's more of them than there are of me. They're going to beat me up. They're going to make it so that everybody has to have caramel macchiato, or they're going to something. I don't know what it is. It doesn't make sense. It's just in their head psychologically. And underlying all of that is I know what I've done to people who are outliers when it didn't make any sense for me to give a crap one way or the other about what's in that person's cup. I did anyway. So they're definitely going to do it to me. And by the way, what this comes down to, once again, is that every Republican accusation is a confession. I've always been terrible to outliers. They are now going to be terrible to me. But don't forget, they are coming at this issue, which isn't even an issue, from another old Republican perspective. If it's happened to me, I care about it. Except they care about lots of things, as it happens, most of these people being liberals, these imaginary foes here. And they're going to say, yeah, I didn't like that, and I'm not going to do that to people. So there's really no issue at all. So you just create one, and you got to create angry vegans and weirdo baristas who are going to force it. They're going to cram their coffee down your throat. Anyway, I thought that was very important and a great point. And so we thank Jason K. Pargin for bringing it to us. And in the intermediate sense, Brian Hughes for having found it and circulated it on Blue Sky, a professor of psychology, by the way, in Galway. Is that right? Okay. So very interesting. And he just circulated under. This is actually quite brilliant, up to and including the final sentence. And I think a lot of you have agreed since I passed it on. Many of you have shared it as well. All right. Something late breaking from Greg, and therefore important, who says, all right, we got to check in with Kyle Cheney, who on Twitter says, breaking news, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, and by the way, does everybody know, I dare you, name one judge you think you know something about the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. Name one judge currently sitting on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. I dare you. Oh, Emile Bove? Oh, okay, well, that is one. I don't know if that he was on this panel. Probably not. But the Third Circuit now rules that Alina Habba is disqualified as U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, and she can't hold the role as an acting either. That's right. I think she was the interim. Oh, we'll just name her acting. Acting. No, don't name her acting. Acting. I'll say it again. Acting. Acting. You're not the acting U.S. Attorney. You won't be. You're out. And I guess they face the same problems that Lindsay Halligan has. I don't know whether there's any cases that'll be dismissed as a result, but I think early on when we covered this issue, it was pretty plain that there were at least some that were going to be questioned, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. That's great. I'm very interested in seeing how that develops. But we'll probably have more reporting on it by tomorrow. What we have in store for you via Instapaper right now, we'll do one more angle here on the Pete Hegseth involvement in the biggest war crime you can do, the biggest and baddest. Well, there have been worse, of course, but the original of war crimes. What am I looking at here? By the way, this is the time for pop-up ads trying to get you to buy various gadgets. And this looks like some sort of, I don't know, it's probably wired to the internet, bacon cooker. But I say this like you can't possibly be meaning like a hot pan. That's a basic cooker, right? No, baking. This is some sort of electronic looking thing that looks like it's like you put your bacon through a wringer of sorts, but it comes out crispy at the other end. I don't know. That's weird. That'd be something. Could we invent that? Hot rollers, a wringer with metal. What do you call the cylinders on the wringer? Do they have a name other than the cylinders? But they heat up. You can crank it through. But this is a little something different. Who cares? It was weird and I didn't capture it. And it probably doesn't work anyway. It's a Juicero, and you buy it, and then they send you bacon by FedEx, every day. And then you put it into the jar and then you take it out of the jar and say, bacon. All right. So I wanted to add this to the Pete Hegseth situation. The Guardian has written up the whole denial aspect of it. And I thought that was interesting and worth putting on the record. Jose Olivares wrote this on Saturday, the 29th. Pete Hegseth denies he gave orders to, quote, kill everybody on alleged, quote, narco boat. By the way, he actually spent the weekend tweeting out cartoon memes using the little kids cartoon Franklin the Turtle, killing people on quote unquote narco boats. So he wasn't really super upset about this thing, I don't think. But now it's starting to look like he might, be the one that gets blamed for it. So he's out denying it. Defense Secretary called reports about his role in strike as fake news intended to discredit U.S. military. But they totally did do this thing. So I don't even know how that play works. The U.S. Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, has declared recent reporting that he may have illegally ordered all people to be killed in a military strike in the Caribbean as fake news on Friday evening, adding that the series of strikes of people on boats, on boats had been, quote, lawful under both U.S. and international law. That's fake news. That it was also not lawful, but then killing them all was definitely not lawful. He thought there was a gray area, just this first strike, but the strike, too, likely unlawful. Hegseth lambasted, there you are, another fun pronunciation game, lambasted reports about his role in the strike as fabricated, inflammatory, and derogatory reporting to discredit our incredible warriors fighting to protect the homeland, which, of course, they were not, but that's what you have to say about soldiers, I think, in American politics, even when they're not actually fighting very much at all, in this case, launching missiles from 20 miles away, and not protecting the homeland because this boat was nowhere near the homeland and not bound for the homeland and didn't have the cargo that the president said they had, which he thought would eventually come to the homeland, wasn't even there. Anyway, the remarks came after a Washington Post report this week alleged that Hegseth ordered defense officials to, quote, kill everybody traveling on a boat that was being surveilled by analysts on September 2nd, the first strike of many carried out in recent months by the Trump administration. The White House said, without proof, that the people in the boats in the Caribbean killed in Pentagon operations were drug smugglers. They still haven't even come up with anything linking them to anything like drugs. May all be true, but then it would be that much easier to do. And by the way, so September 2nd, tomorrow will be December 2nd, so September to October to November, 3 months, a full quarter of the year will have passed in between the strike and us still not seeing any proof that there were any drugs on that boat. And they were surveilling it close enough to see that there were survivors and to circle back. Interestingly, none of the surveillance is any of the drugs around? Should we grab any of that? Even if not for evidence, maybe we just want to have a giant drug party on the boat? No? All right. Well, nobody seemed to be very interested in that. Following the Washington Post's reporting, two senators, Republicans Roger Wicker and Democrat Jack Reed, released a statement saying the Senate Armed Services Committee would be investigating the boat strikes. And as Greg told you, the House too. The committee is aware of recent news reports and the Department of Defense's initial response regarding alleged follow-on strikes on suspected narcotics vessels in the Southcom area of responsibility. The senators wrote in a joint statement. The committee has directed inquiries. It's supposed to be inquiries, but it says inquires. But the committee has directed inquiries to the department, and we will be conducting vigorous oversight to determine the facts related to the circumstances. During the September 2nd operation led by the elite counter-terrorist group SEAL Team 6, a first missile strike left two survivors clinging on to the wreck. You know this story. Admiral Frank M. Mitch Bradley. I don't know if M is for Mitchell or something. Otherwise, why? Okay. Frank Mitch Bradley, head of Special Operations Command, reportedly ordered a second strike to kill the two survivors to comply with Hegseth's orders. So, at least in the first instance, Mitch Bradley says, I didn't order, I told them to go back, but I told them to go back because I had orders to go back, which, that's the point of what Ryan Goodman was saying, which is, Admiral Mitch Bradley should have said, let's not go back and do that. I understand what you're ordering me to do, but why don't we put that on hold for right now, and we'll discuss later, if we're in the heat of the moment, why we aren't doing that. But instead he did. Some current and former U.S. officials and experts have said, according to the Post, that the Trump administration's missile strikes in the Caribbean may be unlawful. That is true. To date, more than 80 people have been killed in a series of military strikes targeting at least 22 more boats. Historically, the U.S. government has interdicted drug trafficking boats into water and prosecuted the alleged smugglers. The Trump administration has accused all people on the boats in the Caribbean of being drug traffickers, saying they were primarily members of Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang that has been a major focus of the administration. Most of the boats have departed from Venezuela, where U.S. government political pressure continues to mount, to say the least. I don't think there's any more additional points to be gained here, though. Although this is interesting. I'll skip down a bit here. Well, maybe it has to happen in context. The declared content is to stop lethal drugs, destroy narco boats, and kill the narco terrorists who are poisoning the American people, Hegseth said in a social media post on Friday evening. Every trafficker we kill is affiliated with a designated terrorist organization. They have no proof of that. They haven't proven their case that anybody needs to be designated as a terrorist organization. They're just taking advantage of the fact that some of what's allowed in the law permits of the administration simply declaring people to be designated terrorist organizations and other individuals to be associated with them. But eventually, the reason that is an option open to the executive branch is that it was assumed that there would be some due process along the way that would require the administration to bring forth credible evidence. But since that's not happening, that sort of reveals the hole in the regulatory scheme here. If it only requires my mouthing magic words, then I'll mouth magic words. Fine. We'll declare that Tren de Aragua is a thing. We'll declare that it's a gang. We'll declare that because it traffics drugs, it is now also a terrorist organization because drugs kill people. And because it's a terrorist organization, see all the bootstrapping that goes on here? Because they're smuggling drugs, they're a terrorist organization. Because they're a terrorist organization, we can be at war with them. Because we can be at war with them, we are at war with them. Because we're at war with them, we can perpetrate acts of war upon them. And because we can perpetrate acts of war upon them and we don't know what we're doing, we can also commit international war crimes. That last step is a little difficult. They haven't found any peg to hang their hat on there. Anyway, as we said, we should finish this up here. Earlier this year, the Trump administration designated Tren de Aragua as a terrorist organization. Highly questionable. The administration has also accused, this is the point I wanted to get to, has also accused the Venezuelan president, Nicolás Maduro, of being the head of the Cartel de los Soles, we mentioned this the other day, a purported drug trafficking organization made up of top Venezuelan government and military officials. So thank you for using the word purported there. I've seen some other reporting here, and I think actually Mark Sumner wrote something up about it. I'm not certain that I parked it in Instapaper or not, but I should go back and find it because he makes a good point here in illustrating that this Cartel de los Soles may not be a thing, like at all. And it's a sort of satirical reference that Venezuelans make to disparage their own government with which they may disagree. And so that's actually quite important and, is a major mistake. Like if that's not a real cartel, then golly, look out. What else can I tell you? You've gone in for something that doesn't exist, and you really should not have believed it. Was it Mark that wrote this? There we are. Yeah, in another piece that has more overarching implications for the whole war crime situation, and basically lays out a similar case, saying, yeah, this is a very basic. Everybody in the military gets this lesson thing, and how you could miss it as an admiral, I do not know. But he goes on eventually to say that there's another Hic-seth saying, hey, look, they're all narco-terrorists. They're a designated terrorist organization. So every trafficker we kill, is the quote, is affiliated with a designated terrorist organization. And Mark explains, the designated terrorist organizations include Cartel de los Soles, which he encloses in scare quotes, an organization that simply does not exist. It's a term that journalists made up to ridicule corrupt officials in Venezuela. It's even less of a real terrorist organization than Antifa. But now Hegseth and Donald Trump are using this make-believe cartel as an excuse not just to blow up small boats and drop a bomb on any survivors, but to plan an invasion of a nation that provides exactly 0%, 0.0 in fact, percent of the fentanyl that arrives in the United States, which is, of course, the stated motivation for the attacks, which is garbage. Okay, fine. So there's garbage from top to bottom. But Cartel de los Soles may be, I guess it's a little bit like, remember when Republicans used to run around and saying Nazis were leftists because National Socialism, right? Somebody else makes a satirical designation calling the Venezuelan government, with which they disagree, as the Cartel de los Soles, and they read that and say they don't, get the satirical nature of it because it's in Spanish. Well, it says cartel right here. Yeah, well, that has never worked for anything, but I mean, like for instance, I think we've done this on the show before, right? Well, the most Saddam loyal troops in the Iraq War were the Iraqi Republican Guard. So therefore, the enemy are Republicans. Does that work for you? No? Oh, that one you reject? Interesting. Well, anyway, there's no cartel. And they've been fooled once again by, terminology that they don't understand. And I think that's important. So we can finish up here with the Guardian piece. Earlier this year, the Trump administration designated Trinidad a terrorist organization. Now they accuse the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, of being the head of a cartel, a so-called Cartel de los Soles, a purported drug trafficking organization made up of top Venezuelan officials and military officials. That seems crazy. Like, how could you be the top officials in the country and just be a narco trafficker? That's crazy. Except, didn't we just go through that with Honduras? And didn't we also just pardon that guy and let him out of jail? I mean, Greg's got it right, basically. Well, you let the big fish off the hook, not because something or there's something insufficient about the evidence. He's been convicted. It's just Trump, I guess, figures a big time drug trafficker can pay me protection money or bribe money, and small time guys can't. Or even better, we can motivate the big time guys to pay us more protection money if we show that we blow up small time guys. Well, then, why would that interest them? They're big time guys. They won't feel threatened by that. No, it's that I'm doing you a favor. Not only will you get my protection, I won't prosecute you, but I will kill your competition for you as well, in order to make it look like I'm tough on drugs. I need domestically to make it look like that. You need, like, financially and existentially for me not to kill you. So how will we make it work? Like this. All right. Although the administration, says the Guardian here, we got to do this before we get out of here. Although the administration has also declared the Cartel de los Soles to be a terrorist organization, organized crime experts say the group is a loose network of lower-ranking military officials without a strict hierarchical structure. Trump has said that the U.S. is attacking the boats due to high rates of fentanyl-related overdose deaths, but lawmakers, narcotic experts, and former law enforcement officials have rejected that claim since fentanyl does not come from Venezuela. Yeah, Well, then, of course, a report from the AP this month is cast out on the Trump administration's claim about the boat strikes, so there's definitely problems there. And golly, what else can we fit in before we take our break? There's just a little bit more to the Guardian article, but I think we got all the points out of this. Let's skim along here and see if, well, there's an ad blocking some of it. So, what else have we got here? Venezuelan officials and some other nations have denounced the administration's strikes in the Caribbean, of course. Trump administration has repeatedly claimed that these are alleged drug traffickers. And the UK, because it's a Guardian paper, says, all right, fine, then we don't want anything else to do with this nonsense. Wow. All right, when we come back, shall we move on, or do we need more fine points to be added to this? Hi, everybody. It's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and Patreon.com, Patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, Patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. I know we need to add to this. We need to add the New York Times reporting about the pardon, or one pardon among another round of several, which include pardons that are on their faces outrageous abuses of the pardon power. This is a really interesting one, and there's been some additional comment since then. Let me read you this New York Times piece. I'll just start here. Trump announces pardon for Honduran ex-president convicted in drug case. I bring this up because, of course, they're in the middle of trying to convince you that the president of Venezuela is very definitely a drug trafficker and part of a huge drug cartel as well. But at the same time, Trump is, the weekend was spent mostly on, well, Trump is ordering us to blow up drug runners or alleged drug traffickers in the Caribbean. But if he cares that much about drug trafficking, then why wouldn't you keep this guy in prison? That was the first level on which it made no sense. Then, of course, we figured out, well, it could be that a big-time drug runner has access to the kind of cash flow that could interest Trump in bribe world, not so much for the little guys, and or maybe as part of the quid pro quo, I'll kill your competition, and then you'll be an even bigger drug runner. Like, why should we let Venezuela horn on your action when you are Honduran? I don't know what, but maybe that's part of it. Maybe it isn't. I am not sure. But the new and broader point that I wanted to make is that when criticized for this pardon, and I'll read you the story and you'll figure out why everyone criticizes this pardon. When criticized for or questioned about this pardon, and Trump was asked about it on the plane where all the chaos happens, and first of all, he went to his go-to excuse which was, I don't know what you're talking about. Somebody said, why did you pardon, if you're so concerned about drugs and drug running that you're about to go to war in the Caribbean, why would you pardon a major drug trafficker? I don't know what you're talking about, he says, which is amazing because that could be interpreted on 10 different levels. One, I don't know which major drug trafficker that I pardoned that you're talking about because there's been a couple. And then I pretend I don't know who I'm pardoning, or maybe I really don't know who I'm pardoning because auto pen and every Republican accusation is a confession or whatever, or I just want to avoid, I'm ducking the issue. But then he went back, he did circle back and address it, and it was basically this. Well, I don't think he's a drug dealer. I don't think he is a drug trafficker. I heard from some people that maybe he had been railroaded, that it was a Biden setup, and I looked at the evidence and I believed them. And they asked, well, what evidence have you seen? Just evidence. Never mind. Anyway, you're stupid and ugly, and I hate you for asking that question. He basically just said, I've been convinced that he's not. Now, he was convicted in a court of competent jurisdiction, beyond, found by a jury. Maybe there's no jury of his peers. None of them have been president of Honduras, but that's not what's required. But convicted by a jury, which means beyond a reasonable doubt. And so why does he do it? And I think the important thing is basically he says, I looked at the evidence and I found that I believed them that he had been railroaded. And just because somebody in your country sells drugs doesn't mean the president of that country is a drug runner. Well, no one was actually making that the accusation, but he was essentially trying to say, come on, the guy was president of his country. He's not a drug runner. Well, why are you going to war in Venezuela again? Because the president of the country is a drug runner. That is going to be weird and awkward, but logic won't have anything to do with it. And the reason logic won't have anything to do with it is no one ever tried to take your coffee away, but you're mad about someone taking your coffee away. That's not logic. Okay. Tying the themes together. Trump announces pardon for Honduran ex-president convicted in drug case. Juan Orlando Hernandez was accused and convicted of receiving millions in bribes and partnering with cocaine traffickers. He was convicted in Manhattan in 2024, not Manhattan, and sentenced to 45 years in prison. But, that happened last year, and so he's been in prison for 1 year. And now he's not in prison because he's pardoned by Trump because he's a president. And you don't want to... There's another theory, by the way, circulating here that Trump pardons crimes that he is committing or thinking of committing or has already committed because they're not crimes. So anybody who's been convicted of this stuff has been railroaded. Besides, when they finally come around and charge me, you'll know that that's a fake crime and it's fake news and they railroad people all the time. Remember Hernandez? I had to let him go because of how many times presidents get railroaded. What about Maduro? I don't know. He's dead. So who cares? So another good example of this time a prediction that every Republican accusation will eventually be shown to be true as a confession. But yeah, I've already seen the rude pundit, I think, making that declaration on Blue Sky. I'm calling it now. He's a drug trafficker. That's why he's doing this. All right. So the Times, the reporting here is by Annie Corial, Jeff Ernst, Sean McCreesh, and David C. Adams. And here we go. President Trump announced on Friday afternoon he would grant a full and complete pardon to a former president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who, as the center of a sweeping drug case, was found guilty by an American jury last year of conspiring to import cocaine into the United States, purportedly a big problem here in the USA. For quite some time. The news came as a shock not only to Hondurans, but also to the authorities in the United States, who had built a major case and won a conviction against Mr. Hernandez. They had accused him of taking bribes during his campaign from Joaquin Guzman, the notorious former leader of the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico, known as, have you ever heard of this guy? El Chapo? And of running his Central American country like a narco state. The judge in his case, P. Kevin Castell, had called Mr. Hernandez, quote, a two-faced politician hungry for power, unquote. Well, Can't have those guys just getting thrown willy-nilly into jail, right? Anyway, the judge called him a two-faced politician hungry for power who masqueraded as an anti-drug crusader while partnering with traffickers. Wow. Do you know anybody who you think might be not only a two-faced politician hungry for power, but who might also be masquerading as an anti-drug crusader while partnering with traffickers? That would be weird. And prosecutors had asked the judge to make sure Mr. Hernandez would die behind bars, citing his abuse of power, connections to violent traffickers, and, quote, the unfathomable destruction, unquote, caused by cocaine. Not fentanyl, but cocaine, which some people say is Don Trump Jr.'s favorite drug of choice. So, anyway, I have a Bitcoin, a stable coin based on pegged to the price of cocaine. And that's why this had to happen. Anyway, the prosecution stretched across Mr. Trump's first term and concluded during Joseph R. Biden Jr.'s time as president. It's the New York Times. I got to do this. In the end, Mr. Hernandez was sentenced to 45 years in prison in federal district court in Manhattan, capping what prosecutors had presented as a sprawling conspiracy. A spokesman for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, where Mr. Hernandez was tried, declined to comment because you'll get fired. A Drug Enforcement Administration agent who worked on the investigation into Mr. Hernandez and spoke anonymously because you'll get fired if you don't speak anonymously, called the pardon, quote, lunacy. Should get rid of presidents who engage in lunacy this frequently. Mike Vigil, a former chief of international operations at the same agency, DEA, also reacted with disbelief to the news of the pardon. Mr. Vigil said the move imperiled the reputation of the United States and its international investigations into drug trafficking. Who's going to cooperate with us now, right? Like, if you're going to take on the president of your country, who is running a narco-terrorist network of international smugglers who will just about kill anybody, taking money from El Chapo, yada, yada, yada. Well, the reason you feel safe in coming forward and providing the evidence against him is that guy's going to go away forever, out of this country, taken the United States, and die behind bars in the U.S. Perfect. Like, I don't know, Manuel Noriega, you might guess. Anybody pardoning him? Is he still alive? Did he die? I don't remember. Anyway, so I'll give evidence. He'll be in prison for the rest of his life in another country. Oh, he won't? Might he come back? I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe he'll move to Mar-a-Lago. I'm not certain what is next for Hernandez, but that's got to make you feel like, hey, maybe I can't trust the United States, which, to be honest, if you are a Honduran, it's probably not new. You probably already didn't trust the United States. And probably going into it, you were like, you know what? Even if Trump is not president again, there's a pretty good chance this guy is going to come back and be released. And at that point, I need to be able to flee the country. I'm just expecting it. Why? Because his fate is in the hand of the United States now. And I live in Honduras, and I know that the United States doesn't do great things to Honduras very often. All right. Anyway, this action would be nothing short of catastrophic and would destroy the credibility of the U.S. in the international community, said Mr. Vigil on Friday in reaction to this. Okay, so, get in line. This is another thing that's going to destroy the credibility of the United States and in the international community alongside wanton murder all over the Caribbean. I'm sorry, but our sustained history over centuries with Honduras and the Caribbean. I know this would be pointed at by Republicans. Oh, Blair, you're the hate America crowd. Well, no, that's why I'm disappointed in all this and angry about it, because I like the place and I wish we were a good example. I wish we were anything close to the shining city on a hill that we like to think of ourselves as being. Or, you know what? We could just be a crappy city on a hill just without murdering so many people. That would be helpful too. Mr. Trump's vow to pardon such a high-profile convicted drug trafficker appeared to contradict the president's campaign to unleash the might of the American military on small boats in the Caribbean and Pacific that his administration says, without evidence, are involved in drug trafficking. It appears to, but then you realize, those are guys with little boats. Where it's the size of the boat. that makes the difference. Even though people have frequently said, and Trump himself has probably said in the past, that it's not the size of the boat, but rather the motion of the ocean. But then he lost his ability to, prompt that motion probably. And whatever. Anyway, something, Stormy Daniels, here we are. That campaign has so far killed more than 80 people since it began in September. The ones where he is saying without evidence that those guys are involved in drug trafficking and killing them. The president has also put intense pressure on Nicolás Maduro, Venezuela's authoritarian leader, deploying troops and warships to the region. Mr. Trump has accused him of being the boss of a drug organization called Cartel de los Soles, though specialists in Latin American criminal and narcotics issues say it is not a literal organization. Neither is the Trump organization, so that won't stop him. Mr. Trump has also authorized covert CIA action in Venezuela. The end goal, American officials say privately, is to drive Mr. Maduro from power. Regime change. The pardon announcement came in a social media post, as most pardons do, from him anyway, on Friday evening by Mr. Trump, all caps here. Congratulations to Juan Orlando Hernandez on your upcoming pardon, he wrote, minutes after he returned to his Pervalago sex dungeon in Florida, where he is spending the holiday weekend and took time out to visit a nearby golf club, yada, yada. Make Honduras great again. By the way, Honduras very much one of the S-hole countries, I'm sure, that Trump used to refer to all the time. Interesting. Do not congratulate major narco traffickers on their upcoming pardons. Mr. Hernandez's lawyer, Renato Stable. It's stable. No, it isn't. It's not pronounced or spelled that way. Stable. And I think we've called his name before too. Maybe in connection to Hernandez, maybe something else. I don't know. It'd be interesting to look that up. Anyway, he said that he had not known about the pardon until his client's wife called him on Friday afternoon in tears streaming down her eyes, and read Mr. Trump's social media message. Mr. Hernandez was supposed to have his appeal heard the week of December 8th. So it was coming up, an appeal. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Mr. Trump has also weighed in on Honduras' upcoming election set for Sunday. So maybe that has something to do with it. He has endorsed a candidate, a former mayor named Nasri Tito Asfura from the Conservative National Party, the same one that Mr. Hernandez belongs to. Mr. Asfura has spent much of a highly contested race courting leaders in Washington, including members of Mr. Trump's inner circle, in case you're wondering how this got in front of him. This week, Mr. Trump wrote, Tito and I could work together to fight the narco-communists. That's the issue. We need narco-fascists. And that's what we're after. So we're killing the narco-communists from Venezuela, so the narco-fascists from Honduras and Colombia. Well, we killed some Colombians too. And Mexico, but we hate Mexico. I don't know. We don't know. Whoever can pay me can continue to work. All right. Well, Tito and I can work together to fight the narco-communists. By the way, why are the narco-communists charging so much for their narcos? Shouldn't that be, like something that you get for free as a hardworking American? Tito and I can work together to fight the narco-communists and bring needed aid to the people of Honduras. Foreign aid. Wow. I thought we hated that stuff. But there's no sense in any of this. There's no game plan. I'm getting money from this guy. He's bribing me, so I'm doing it. Mr. Asfura did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Mr. Hernandez, a major figure in Honduras' national party, served as president from 2014 to 2022. When he won, he was seen as a willing, albeit flawed, ally by the United States. Wow, that's a big flaw. But his first term was plagued by corruption scandals that led to widespread protests. His tenure was also defined by the contentious election of 2017, when he secured a second term despite a constitutional ban on re-election. Oh boy. Well, we can see where Trump's admiration comes from. Widespread accusations of fraud, oh no, set off demonstrations and post-electoral violence, involving the military, and nearly 24 people were killed. During his second term, Mr. Hernandez's rumored connections to drug traffickers escalated after his brother, a former lawmaker, was arrested on drug trafficking charges in 2018 while visiting the United States. a major tactical error. Lead investigator on that case, Emil Bove, then a prosecutor for the Southern District of New York, and later one of Mr. Trump's personal lawyers, and then later on the Third District Court of Appeals, which just recently said, Alina Habba, you are out. Less than a month after leaving office in 2022, Mr. Hernandez was arrested and later extradited to the United States to face drug trafficking and weapons charges. During the trial, prosecutors asserted that Mr. Hernandez had received millions in bribes from drug traffickers, including $1 million from Mr. Guzman, the former Sinaloa cartel leader who is imprisoned in the United States. Mr. Hernandez, and didn't he make an escape at some point? Oh, anyway. Mr. Hernandez denied, and then he was recaptured, that he trafficked narcotics. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Offered police protection to drug cartels or take bribes, denied it all, and Trump believed him. But not yet. In the end, he was convicted in March of 2024 of the drug charges and of possessing and conspiring to possess, quote, destructive devices, including machine guns. Attorney General Merrick B. Garland. Merrick B. Garland. I don't know. That made him sound very Irish, but the B is in there. Garland said at the time, as president of Honduras, Juan Orlando Hernandez abused his power to support one of the largest and most violent drug trafficking conspiracies in the world, and the people of Honduras and the United States bore the consequences. But then he was bored about the consequences that should have been brought to bear on the guy who, as president of the United States, abused his power, and yada, yada, yada. Anyway, you know that story. Since Mr. Trump took office this year, Mr. Hernandez's family has attempted to portray his conviction as a political persecution by the Biden administration, but the investigation into his ties with drug traffickers took place primarily during Mr. Trump's first term. But I can make up for that if you have the means. I can be brought to see reason. His cause was taken up by figures like Roger Stone, who's always awesome to take advice from. You know him as the conservative political operative and Trump ally. Mr. Stone claimed that Mr. Hernandez had been, quote, trapped and was a victim of a conspiracy tied to the U.S. government and obviously perpetrated by Emil Bove, but whatever. Honduras is now governed by a left-wing party, Libre, which was formed by another former president, Manuel Zelaya, after he was ousted in a coup in 2009. His wife, Xiomara Castro, is the current president. I did not know that. Okay. The Zelaya Castro family has itself faced allegations of drug trafficking ties. I guess that's Honduras for you. And was painted by the opposition in this year's election as pro-Venezuela. Mr. Trump, in one of his recent posts, called the family the communists, but he just calls everybody communists. As word spread on Friday about Mr. Hernandez's pardon, Todd Robinson, who served as the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs at the State Department, said online, "We blow up alleged drug boats in the Caribbean, but pardon actually convicted drug traffickers in the U.S. Someone help me make sense of this." And the answer you're looking for is bribery. Mr. Zelaya, the progressive former Honduran president, wrote on social media, POTUS, by absolving JOH, Juan Orlando Hernandez, protects the looter of the state and now orders people to vote for Asfura, the direct heir to the narco regime. On Friday, Mr. Asfura posted an image of himself, Mr. Trump, and Javier Milei, Argentina's president, who also got a big bonus direct from the United States, on social media. Opponents of Mr. Asfura in the upcoming election denounced the pardon, with Libre's candidate Rishi, how would you, R-I-X-I, like Mexico, right? Rishi Moncada, linking it to the string-pulling of Honduran elites in Washington. Another top candidate, Salvador Nasralla, proclaimed in a post, unlike his rivals, he had clean hands. I don't know. That's the claim. Many in Honduras wondered how Mr. Trump's pardon would affect the elections this weekend. It will obviously stir up the same powerful negative sentiment seen in the 2021 elections that pushed Juan Orlando out of power, said Leonardo Pineda, a Honduran analyst. He added that by linking Mr. Asfura to Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Trump could actually hurt Mr. Asfura's chances of winning. And that's usually the case with the Trump endorsement in general. That's the end of the article. A lot of the key points eventually made in that, and I don't know what to tell you. It's a crazy situation, and a lot of people connected to the prosecution are just saying, in just no uncertain terms, this is one of the craziest possible pardons out there. It doesn't make any sense. It undermines American authority, American reputation around the world, and endangers millions, once again, to the extent that you believe that allowing drug trafficking endangers the lives of Americans, and why wouldn't you? There's some sense to that. Then why would you let somebody out who's capable of moving so much so quickly to the United States, and who along the way, in a couple other stories, has been quoted as having said at some point that he desired, that he wanted to shove the drugs up the gringos' noses. Like, well, that's where it goes, but you don't have to shove it. They will put it up there willingly. You don't have to do any work on this. I just found the whole thing amazing, and we'll just, this, what can I tell you? Another contender for saddest chapter in our history, blossoming right alongside all of the rest of this stuff. All right, in the few minutes that we have left, let me tell you this story. The AP updating us over the weekend on the status of what's going on in Judge Boasberg's court. I think we gave you the latest on our way out the door. Oh gosh, I don't know. Did we do it on Thursday? Did we include it in Friday's show? It might have been. I think Friday was all about something else. But here's where we stand, just by way of update. Trump officials and judge face off over flights to El Salvador in a rare high-stakes contempt probe. We know about that ongoing. This is a report. We weren't on the air live on Friday. This is a report on what was actually being set up for Friday. The AP reporter here is Sundin Tanawala, who writes on the 29th, two planes, this is the background, two planes carrying Venezuelan migrants out of the U.S. were midair on March 15th, when a federal judge in Washington, Boasberg, ordered the Trump administration to turn them around. And, why they did it this way, I'll never know, but this is what happened. Instead, the planes landed in El Salvador hours later, touching off an extraordinary power struggle between the judicial and executive branches of the U.S. government over what happened and why the judge's order went unexecuted. The part I was referring to, why it happened this way, I don't know, is why he gave in court, live, in situ, in court, gave a verbal order for the planes to turn around and said, my verbal order is effective, doesn't need to be reduced to writing, but I will reduce it to writing. And then half an hour later did reduce it to writing. And for some reason did not put the, if you're already in the air, turn around part in there. He just said, no more deportations under these pretenses, freezing this stuff. Plus anybody who, in court, he said, I'm telling you to turn around now. Then he wrote down everything but turn around now. And I don't know what to tell you. You should have listened more carefully to the judge when he said, this is an effective order. I don't have to put it in writing, but I will later on. But you should be obeying all of it. But then they get the written part. I don't know. I can see what they're doing, saying he didn't write it down. Maybe he changed his mind. I don't know. So the fight entered a critical phase on Friday, when U.S. District Judge James Boasberg relaunched an investigation to determine whether the Republican administration deliberately ignored his instruction, letting the planes continue on to El Salvador. The judge previously concluded it did. What? It did what? It did ignore his instruction, and it threatened to have the responsible official or officials prosecuted on a contempt charge. The administration has denied any violation, but an appeals court threw Boasberg's decision out. Remember that, right? The D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals threw it out. The contempt probe appeared dead until, in yet another twist, a larger panel of judges, the en banc rehearing of the same appeals court, ruled on November 14th that the investigation could proceed. All right. So we knew about that. Here's a look at what makes this case unusual and what could happen now. We'll cram a little bit of it in here and then hand it off to you to read on your own if necessary. Criminal contempt inquiries such as Boasberg's are extremely rare. That is true. They are a last resort. Former federal judges Jeremy Fogel and Liam O'Grady told the AP in an interview Monday conducted on Zoom. The judge has to believe that some line may have been crossed that you cannot ignore, said Fogel, who spent 20 years on the bench in Northern California before retiring in 2018. Fogel said that the issues raised by Boasberg's contempt probe, whether the migrants were deprived of their due process rights, they were, and whether the court's authority was flouted, it was, meet that standard. Whatever actually happened, I think it would be very hard for him to just let it go, the judge said. O'Grady, who served in Alexandria, Virginia, just outside of Washington for 16 years, credited Boasberg for his efforts to determine the facts. He's making sure that his record is absolutely clear, O'Grady said. Boasberg, it says here, wants to start with the written statements. On Friday, Boasberg ordered the administration to submit declarations by December 5th from all officials involved in the decision not to return the flights to the U.S. He said he will then decide whether to seek testimony from the witnesses. The declarations should detail the officials' roles in the decision, the judge said in a brief order. Justice Department attorneys had urged him to abandon the probe, but Boasberg said he must determine whether Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem or anyone else should be referred for potential contempt prosecution. In other words, the court must decide if, 1, the court order was clear and reasonably specific, 2, the defendant violated the order, and 3, the violation was willful, he wrote. In a court filing on Tuesday, the Justice Department attorney said Noem decided the migrants aboard the flights could be transferred to El Salvador after receiving advice from Homeland Security's Department Acting General Counsel Joseph Mazzara. So maybe it's his fault.
From netrootsradio.com, you have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
But it should be pointed out that Mazzara had received legal advice about the planes from Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche and Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General Emile Beauvais, again, according to the filing. There's much more to this story and, of course, much more happening around the world. Justice Putnam takes you on his tour of it next.